Have you ever been told to do something that you really just didn't want to do? Something that maybe your boss or a parent or someone has just asked of you, your spouse perhaps? Jonah felt that way. He was given a job to do, by God actually, no less, and didn't want to do it. In Jonah chapter 1, starting in verse 1, it says, "Now the word of the Lord," all caps, which is God's personal name, Yahweh. So now the word of Yahweh came to Jonah, the son of Amittai. We'll pretend to pronounce that correctly. Saying, verse 2, "Arise and go to Nineveh, that great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come up before me." But Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of Yahweh. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went on board to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of Yahweh. Now, you might be thinking, man, that sounds so stupid. Why would you do that? This is God. You're not really going to get away from God, right? But the odd thing is we do this all the time. As Christians, we are given a job or given a mission by God Himself to go and to make disciples, to go into all the world and preach His good news. We don't. At least not here in comfortable America. It's too much of a hassle for us to stop and talk to someone. It's too awkward to share our faith. Even though in Matthew 28 we're told to go into all the world, making disciples, baptizing them in the name of Christ, and teaching them all that God's commanded. It's not a very popular thing to talk about. We feel uncomfortable by it. How sad. Because there are countless people in this world who think they're fine, think they're saved even, but because they've never experienced the true love and grace of Christ, because they've never experienced that relationship with Him, with that God that this book tells us about, this book which is the Word of God, because they don't know Him, they'll spend eternity in hell. How much must we hate someone to not want to share Christ with them? "Oh, no, you're fine. You're going to hell. Psh, I don't care." Really? None of us would say those words, but if we're to be honest, by us not sharing Christ with them because we're scared, because we're intimidated, because whatever excuse you have, it's what we're saying. It's fine if you go to hell. God forgive us. In this life of Christianity, there's no room for fear. Now, we get afraid. I get afraid. I get that. I'm not trying to belittle that. But just because we don't like the mission, just because we might not want to talk to someone because we're scared to do something, doesn't give us the excuse to not do it. Jonah thought it did, apparently, because in the story we see, hey, God's like, "Hey, rise and go to Nineveh. There's this great evil. I want you to go and talk to them." And Jonah's like, "Psh, forget that." And he runs the other way. God forgive me from when I do that. God forgive us from when we do that. We've been given a mission. For those of us that are men, it's time for us to man up, step up and do it. And those that are women, it's time for you to find your strength. The strength that God has given you. He hasn't given us a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power. So let's embrace the mission of Christ and take this good news to the world. Romans tells us how beautiful are the feet that bear good news. So let that be us. Let's go into the world and share Christ.